Hey everybody, what's going on? You are listening and watching the Daily AI Show. Today we have Andy and Beth. The Andy and Beth Show is back. It had a limited run during the holidays, but we are back by popular demand or just by demand. Today, we are talking about meta prompting and specifically a paper. Researchers from Stanford and OpenAI introduced meta prompting, an effective scaffolding technique designed to enhance the functionality of language models in a task agnostic manner. And while that's a mouthful, it is actually very exciting. And Andy and I are going to talk more deeply about this. But basically, it promises to use the inherent functionality. It's not quite ChatGPT. They did the research with the API, so there's some stuff on the back end, but it increases the value of the inherent functionality of the large language models by expanding the expertise that the large language model can create, can know that it itself needs a particular branch of expertise and then call on it. Andy, this is your bailiwick, and you have been interested in mixture of experts the whole time, right?
It's related, conceptually, it's related to mixture of experts models. And just a fact that I'll put out there is that ChatGPT-4, which is really one of the earliest examples of a reasoning engine that also has role-playing capabilities. You can assign it a role and it'll take on that thing. Those levels of skills are achieved in a mixture of experts model that has, we believe, 8 different expert components. That's nice. ChatGPT-4. By the way, ChatGPT-5 is going to have 16 different experts built into its training, in effect. So let me give you a sort of a natural language definition of what meta prompting is.
Awesome. While he's getting that ready, I'm going to say, hey, Carl. So it's actually the Beth, Andy, and Carl show. Yeah, awesome.
Okay. And I'll also say that it's great to have Beth here specifically to discuss this, because Beth has a lot of experience teaching mega prompting, another type of prompting, which has a very important structure to it, where you have to provide very specific assignments of a persona. That's the role that you ask it to take. And then you give it explicit instructions. And that becomes a pretty long effort. One of the beauties of meta, as distinct from mega prompting, is that it's much easier for the user, because you're basically delegating the creation of all of those elements to the LLM itself. So here's how the researchers phrased it. This is an innovation set to redefine language models' roles from singular entities to orchestral maestros capable of transformative performances in complex problem solving. So I love that, orchestral maestros. It's saying that they are the conductors. The language model becomes the conductor of an ensemble of experts. So meta prompting asks the language model to break down complex tasks into smaller, more manageable parts, which are then to be handled by specific expert instances in the same language model. So it creates those experts in its own mixture of experts model, each working under specific customized instructions. So the language model itself acts as a conductor, controlling the communication between these expert models, reviewing their output and passing it on to the next one, and efficiently integrating the results. And now this improves performance of language models. How much does it improve performance? Well, on difficult mathematical problems where this meta prompting was done by the researchers, it improved the quality and excellence of the output by 17%. And they have ways of giving metric evaluations of how much better the output is on any given run or by a specific prompt versus another kind of prompt. All right. So now, little caveat. It does require role-playing skills. So ChatGPT 4 does very well with meta prompting, but 3.5 Turbo, which doesn't have the role-playing skills, doesn't get any benefit from using meta prompting. So that gives you an idea that there has to be a reasoning capability already inherent in the size and parameter size and the training of the large language model. And so the advanced models like Gemini Ultra and ChatGPT 4 and 5, ultimately, they have these capabilities. And so meta prompting is going to become the thing that is used by prompt engineers, which are falling by the wayside, which is another part of this discussion. Prompt engineering was a big thing. Remember that? Well, not so much once you have meta prompting and the large language model takes over prompting development with experts in its own care. And by the way, it's also related to ChatGPT's custom GPTs, which are in effect little experts that you build and that you orchestrate in your own way. So you become the ensemble conductor. Okay, that's a long-winded way of introducing it, but touches on some of the ways that this is related to the architecture and capabilities of the evolving large language models.
Carl, have you played with this in any way?
You know, I was kind of trying it with custom GPTs where in a thread you're like, do this, look for another model, because it's already act as, right? So I don't need to put that instruction. So it's like this. But what's interesting is you can kind of see a little bit of a roadmap, if that is the roadmap, of you've got meta prompting, you've got agents. So meta prompting in a thread, you wanted to accomplish a goal, and here's a bunch of tasks, and here are custom GPTs to help you accomplish every single these individual tasks. Then these individual tasks could also be agents that these custom GPTs could then go do for you. So there, to me, it's like you've built a foundation, you've got these custom GPTs that I would guess they are priming. So when, let's say, GPT-5 comes out, when they have those agents available, now you have the power to start having one agent, meta prompt. So you have kind of an ecosystem that now you can play with. So it isn't just, you're not just in a large language model just looking for answers. It's a whole, I don't know, infrastructure for you to start doing things. That's kind of how I see the roadmap. And I've been trying to do it that way. It's still a little clunky right now because you have to find the right custom GPT to do, and you actually have to plan it out beforehand to do the meta prompting. It's like, well, to do this, I need this one, this one, this one, and this one.
Right.
And you have to get it kind of right. So it's not really 100%. And then each one has their own quirks. So I think that still needs to get played out. But I don't know. What do you think about kind of that infrastructure that OpenAI is kind of building for us?
I find it really interesting. And I will say that this will shock no one who listens to us. My mind immediately went to, it's sort of like an improv scene, right? You're just, as the core improviser, saying, so I need this character to come on stage now. And I'm both watching what that character does and playing that character as the large language model, right?
And one hat over the other hat.
Yeah, now I run over to the other side of the stage and I say, well, this is what I think from my vaulted expertise position. Then I run back to the other side of the stage and I talk as a person who's conducting the thing. I think this is definitely where we're going. Andy, the whole time, the experts that we've been listening to about prompt engineering have said, don't get too attached, right? Like, engage in it. You want to know what it is, how large language models talk in a way and are spoken to in a way that yields good results so that you can recognize that kind of situation. But don't get too attached, because these are going to be great at prompting themselves.
Yeah.
Greg.
I do remember, just by the way, I remember reading a little blurb many months ago now that, one of the big new positions that's in demand is prompt engineers. Companies are needing prompt engineers, and they're getting paid huge sums of money to be able to do that. And really, it's a passing thing. It truly is a passing thing. Now, there'll be other ways that expertise in familiarity with prompting of large language models is going to be important, but I don't think it's going to be a whole class of workers, human workers, who are needed to guide LLMs.
And more than likely, if you have hired a prompt engineer, they're the one that you're going to go to and ask, how does this change your job? Right? Mm-hmm. Like that AI expertise. Greg is asking, is this an approach we can use now?
Yes, it is. So Carl was describing a way of simulating the process of creating a council of experts using custom GPTs and being the orchestrator himself. So that's what he was playing with. But I'm going to read to you an actual meta prompt that is actually the meta prompt that was used by the researchers. So, and it's just so easy. And that's one of the beauties of this thing, is it reduces the load that's required by you as you attempt to use this. So here's the instruction. You are meta expert, an extremely clever expert with the unique ability to collaborate with multiple experts, such as expert problem solver, expert mathematician, expert essayist, etc., to tackle any task and solve any complex problem. Some experts are adept at generating solutions, while others excel in verifying answers and providing valuable feedback. Key part, by the way, that's an expert.
Yeah.
That isn't named there, but is an important part of it. No, you also have special access to Expert Python, which has the unique ability to generate and execute Python code given natural language instructions. Now, that's something that's available. This is the prompt just defining use Python, saying use Python, which is a language that's available in Code Interpreter within ChatGPT-4. So it's available to you today. Expert Python is highly capable of crafting code to perform complex calculations when given clear and precise directions. You might therefore want to use it especially for computational tasks. As meta expert, your role is to oversee communication between the experts, effectively using their skills to answer a given question while applying your own critical thinking and verification abilities. To communicate with an expert, type its name, followed by a colon, and then provide a detailed instruction closed with triple quotes. For example, and it gives an example to the Python expert mathematician. Ensure that your instructions are clear and unambiguous. And there's just one more paragraph here, which is, evaluate the output of each expert's thing. See that it has a problem, ask another expert to do it and evaluate it, and talk to the other expert and get it right before it comes back to you. Evaluate all the different answers from the multiple experts until you have an answer, and only give the final answer at the end when you're confident that all of them have, kind of aligned. That was an abbreviation of another paragraph of the thing. But you can see there's a lot of specific instructions to the meta expert, but there's no example of the actual creation of a sub-expert.
Right.
It says they exist and you have access to them. So you basically create them and call upon them. And that's all it takes.
So I have thought for a really long time that improvisation is a really great skill set with which to engage large language model, and being able to play back and forth to try to achieve a particular objective. And this actually, I like this because you don't need to know going in who is going to be needed in the scene, right? Like you can sort of move forward, and then there is clearly a call for another character, and another character can get built. This research itself did a bunch of math, which I think is, math is hard, right? So particularly hard for large language models, and the Python ability is what makes that easier, because math works in programming in a different way than it works in language prediction of the next word. But it also used Shakespearean sonnet writing, where the goal is to write a sonnet with a strict rhyme scheme. So A, B, C, D, E, F, and then G, G, right? And rhyming is definitely a language function, not a mathematical function, but this is definitely pattern, and being able to recognize and stay within that pattern. I think that's really interesting. I'm excited about this.
So here's one thing, and just answering Greg's question here, I kind of thinking about this from more of a business sense. and I'm going to use, let's say, remember that Sam Altman, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago had, there was news like, hey, my bet is on a one-person, $1 billion company. So I was thinking, okay, you have met, and I remember a little while back, he also said, you should be building for GPT-5 with higher reasoning and those kind of capabilities, agents and so on. So if you really, if you're forward thinking enough and you're in the space, so you create meta prompts, but those meta prompts can now, each of those custom GPTs can reason much better. Right now they can't. They just complete a task, maybe a couple, some more complicated others, but in general it's task. Every single one of those things has now a higher level of reasoning and can accomplish goals, not just tasks. Wouldn't it, from a business sense now, remember who was it? GPT Boss. And he created all those employees, quote unquote, but they were like custom GPTs before custom GPTs. Right. Now though, those custom GPTs can be legit. Your finance manager, your accounting person, your HR person, your marketing person, your salesperson, like they will each have higher levels of reasoning. So I would argue a meta prompt could be a team meeting between your entire company. So I, CEO of whatever company, have these custom GPTs who are technically the C-suite for me that can go and accomplish a bunch. They're not there to replace technically people, but they can accomplish a lot more. And I'm just using a startup example. Imagine that level of capability now, not just tasks, but actual reasoning. It's like, hey, what kind of business plan should we develop based on these? This is what the goal is. This is what we're trying to do. And each one of these things, you could ask it in technically a meeting. I don't think you can do this now, but once you get to that level, now you have that capability, and they go off and accomplish these things, like create a marketing strategy to help accomplish this business goals that we all have developed.
Right. And it's not exactly generative antagonistic network. Is that what that stands for again? But there is adversarial network, but it's as if you have all of those positions, and then you have the intern at the table who is just excited and does not understand that they should not ask every question that occurs to them in their head. So as the marketing person is saying something, the intern is saying, I don't get it. Right? Like, and so then the marketing person is needing to like go back into their thing. Like, you have this, I don't think it works. I'm not sure. Like, you have this conversation back and forth with each step that is verifying that it actually works. It makes sense. Yeah. Right. And I'm just choosing the intern because I think it's a nicer thing than like the superior saying it's not good enough. Give me something else. But it is that function.
And one more step too, you know how right now for custom GPTs or really any AI custom chatbots, you manually still have to put in the knowledge base.
Yes.
I don't think we need to do that. I think, hey, create me the knowledge base that I need to run this company. And guess what? Those agents will go out based on just general instructions and help you craft the knowledge base that goes into the knowledge base of said business that now it runs. So you're getting into this is starting to get a little like futuristic, but I don't see why you can't ask these agents to build you what you're looking for if you give them access to your Google Drive, if you give them access to all these databases that you are, they can create the specific knowledge sources that will then power said business, said goal, and to go off for you. So to me, that is kind of the direction where I see the layers of these things that we are building.
Yeah, and add to that group of internal resources, add to it an expert web research agent, right? So there's a special expert that's part of the council that is simultaneous with everything going on, is going out to the web and finding all the relevant and up-to-date information that's necessary to inform your strategy or your tactics that you're developing at that time. Let me talk about simultaneity here. One of the things that is a limitation of the current models with respect to meta prompting is that it has to happen in a serial fashion, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the parallelism that they're going to say, okay, here's expert one and expert two. You each go out and do your thing at the same time. But that's going to be an advancement. Meta prompting will be improved when the large language models can consult multiple experts simultaneously. That'll speed up the process. Another downside of this whole methodology is that it's expensive. That meta prompt, the part that I've shortcut, has in there saying, okay, so go through multiple evaluations of the outputs of these experts and try to complete it within 15 rounds. So you can imagine the number of tokens that are being delivered through the LLM in this process where the AI itself is driving lots of different instructions. By the way, one of the other instructions is, remember that all of your experts don't have any memory. So every time you give them a new direction, give them all the information they need. So it's lumping all of that stuff together and then having to, manage all of that. Another problem that has surfaced in the sort of examination of these meta prompts, the more complex ones going after really difficult problems, is that, the large language models today, they have great reasoning capabilities, but their instruction tuning isn't perfect. So when there's a handoff step that's required there, sometimes they'll flub that. So, it does take a number of rounds, and therefore it's expensive in compute to get to that 17% improvement over a standard, say, chain of thought prompt or other method that can be used to apply reasoning to a complex problem.
Okay, so as you're saying that, like, what is the level right below that? Because this seems like a giant leap, and I'm wondering, can the output be, hey, we've recognized we need a new assistant. This is the information that you need to go and create another assistant in the OpenAI playground, right? Now we continue that prompt. Yeah, Carl?
It's funny that you say create another assistant. So are you saying you're going to create, hey, I need this task to be done or this goal to be done? It has a whole bunch of tasks. I don't even know what tasks need to be done. Will this thing actually, I mentioned that you have to create all these, let's say, roles.
Right.
Is it now, are we talking about, oh, I need you tell me to create a whole bunch of other roles. So I'm looking at it as, let's say you have a chief financial officer, and that chief financial officer with the goal of, developing the financial foundation of your company. Oh, meaning that chief financial officer, quote unquote, custom GPT, now creates 4 different custom GPTs who have very specific task roles. So now you have
don't run
one.
out of cash.
You
Well, and I'm saying, okay, maybe it's not at the point where it can just do that automatically and run it all, but it is potentially at the point where it's like, yes, I recognize I need these four. You, human, are going to take these. I'm going to give you the exact instruction schema, action plan, and you're going to go and use your like human monkey fingers and do the do the part, right? So you're going to create the new assistants, and then you come back and say, okay, here we go, that's what it's called.
You're going into the realm of, I'm going to hire, based on my council of custom GPTs, I'm going to hire employees, and I'm going to say, who's my boss? That the custom GPT is your boss, and the custom GPT will give you, and they'll be like, what are you talking about? It's like, I have built into the custom GPT to do your performance reviews, empower you, and do all these different things. You don't report to me, you report to the custom GPT. It has enough reasoning to have a conversation with it. Like, are we going into that territory where like now your reports are going to AI reports?
It's a symbiotic relationship, because I have the ability to like remove power, right? Like I have the fingers that can unplug the cord.
But do you, because this thing now in terms of reasoning has reasons, and like it would be insane for anybody to be like, yeah, you now have also the power to hire and fire people, which is, we're going into the realm of really weird territory.
But are they real people, or are they like spun up, made up people?
No. I'm thinking
he's going another step. It sounds far-fetched, but it's not.
You just said, hey, do your monkey fingers and do this, right? Like you just said, as a custom GPT, I need 4 people or 2 people to do this. Well, isn't it in my best interest? I'm just going to hire 2 real interns. I want you to follow what the custom
instructions
just told you to do, which you've just created the first. Your boss technically is a custom GPT, which means your boss is an AI. Like that to me is like, you're one step away from that when you've just said that. Because if I just created my council of GPTs and it tells me, well, I can't do it because I just don't have the capabilities, because I don't have monkey fingers. So I would recommend you hire 2 people to do it.
Until it designs a robot to replace.
It designs a robot.
Right? Okay. Yes. Now that robot ability to fold T-shirts is like, okay. Now we understand.
So how is that? And as a business owner, I'd be like, if I hire 2 co-op students directly from university to do, I'm like, you will do exactly what this custom GPT says. Do not deviate from anything. Wouldn't that accomplish what exactly the goal of the business is? And then you're just interacting with said custom GPT. Oh, I've got 2 people now that will work for you to do this. The instruction is, I want you to continue doing the finance work and build a robust finance department. Here are 2 people with monkey fingers to get you going. Sure. And then it'll just keep giving them orders. And technically,
I think the AI is going to be much better prepared than just issuing orders. It's going to be conversational and friendly and supportive.
You've done such a good job. Oh, thank you so much. We couldn't achieve this success without you, because I am the reasoning capability, but you are the person in the world really putting the effort in.
Now we can connect to like things like character AI. So it's like, oh, not only are you a finance person, but I want you to act like, I don't know, Deadpool when you're giving orders. And that's how I want you to act.
These language models are expert at role play, so
exactly
they'll include.
I don't know. I feel we've created like a dystopia just by reasoning capabilities alone. I think if GPT-5 is as powerful as we've all said, and it has agents, I don't see why not I would do this or try this. I wouldn't have the direct report.
And this is going back to the launch of this thread, which is really the $1 billion one person company, right? They don't need any people anymore to get to a valuation that is a unicorn valuation. And that will happen. That's the prediction that Sam Altman makes, is that eventually there will be such an example. And the import of that is that there is an issue that has to be addressed societally about what are humans to do.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a utopia and it could be a dystopia, depending on just how concentrated the wealth among the one person billion-dollar companies is and what they do with that money.
So we need to wrap up, but my question for that is, why would you? I mean, if you have access to $1 billion, wouldn't you want some people around you? Like, I mean, they're as a human interacting in the world. I think if I have the ability to, all right, so if I have the ability to create a $1 billion company, would I not then also want to create, like, invite my the AI Show colleagues to come in so that we could share in this? But all right,
it's the $1 billion company in the hands of one person is going to have a selection bias of a person who's a solitary player, a solopreneur who doesn't want any people around them and can't manage them and has difficulty in social interaction anyway. So no, that person who ended up in that position is not going to want any people around them unless they're sycophants. So anyway.
But they don't need to, because again, with higher reasoning, you can create the interaction that you want, which again, there's a lot of really negative connotations of going down a terrible path there. But we've seen it, the romantic companions, the character AI is what, third or second in the what people are using AI for. So it's not we can go off on a rant how social media has isolated us more and then led to more people, right? And remote work and all that kind of stuff. All those combinations have led to more isolations, but then kind of opened the door to isolation. I can just create my friend group and then interact with them and I feel better about myself. And then, there's pros and cons of that. But with going just pure business, if you have a $1 billion solopreneur, ideally do you really need to invite people to the business? You can go off and go do your own social thing while your business technically runs by itself.
Excuse me, I've got to go off in the hall for just a second. I just need to approve some things. Or no, sorry, they've already approved it. I don't need to
do anything.
So yeah, okay.
How come my company now is worth zero? What happened?
Just before we close, let me just respond to Greg's last question here. Has OpenAI disclosed how they define the current 8 experts within that deep neural network and what their personas are? I've never heard any discussion of it, and it's only rumored, I think, that there are 8 specific ones in there. But the people who are closer to the source now writing about ChatGPT-5 say it's going to double from 8 to 16 experts. So I think that 8 is about correct, but you can imagine what the different capabilities of GPT-4 are, and there's probably a cluster of neurons in there that they're called multi-layered perceptrons instead of neurons, but there's a cluster of those that is really working around one of those capabilities. And it's not about data pipelines. And I don't think they train them specifically. One of the magic mysteries of these deep neural networks is you don't define in these very, very deep layers of I'll call them neurons, perceptrons. You don't define what the model does with the data as it filters them through all of these things. It creates its own substructures within its association of all of these different neurons. So
Right.
it's not specific to the training, although there could be data pipelines to train a specific capability, but it's kind of fed in at the same level. I may be completely wrong about that. There has to be an engineer who's working on LLM development to really answer that question. Do you train a separate model and then gang them together, or is it a single model that's being fed data in the training process and it creates its own substructures? I don't know. So I think I spoke a long time about something. But that's one of my skills, is as a human with average general intelligence, instead of artificial general intelligence, I'm capable of speaking authoritatively of subjects I know very little about.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I would like to highlight that tomorrow is our news show. And there's been some really interesting news coming out. So we always look forward to that. And then later in the week, we're going to do our Gemini deep dive, Gemini Advanced and Gemini Ultra compared to Pro. And Andy, what is the third show as I'm pulling up the splash screen?
Oh,
it's the 50, right? It's the 50 companies.
Yeah, I won't be here, but since I nominated that subject, I'm going to do a short recording of my commentary on the 50 companies that are really making a difference out there using AI. I'm going to select a subset of those that I think are worth noting.
Nice. Well, thanks everybody, and we're out. Enjoy your day.